name is Wayne. I'm a developer. And today I'm going to show you some ways of organizing your code so that it's scalable and easy to read for other developers. Some of the patterns I'm going to be showing is the publisher subscriber pattern, the service layer, and the data access layer. For this demonstration, I'm showing you a simple command line interface app. It's a employee manager. You can check out the repository here. You can clone the repository and follow along if you want to. I'm already in the folder of the repository. When you start npm, this is what you see. It's a very basic tool that lets you see all the employees. All the employees sorted by department, ELS, by manager. No values mean that that specific employee does not have a manager. Currently, we have 2 employees that don't have a manager. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. This is a legal team lead and this is a lead engineer. It makes sense that they don't have a manager. Maybe they are the manager. You can add a department. The department could be marketing, and then it would show all the previous departments as well as the new department. As you can see, you can update the employee manager row, remove an employee, add row, view all rows, add department, all kinds of manipulations. So as an HR department, you can add employees, change the manager, change their job description, and the department will follow. This department column, you have a specific table when it comes to organizing the database. You want to have a table for the department, a table for the jobs. These are the jobs, the title of the job they have, and then you want to connect the job table and the department table so that if you change the job for a specific user, it's going to change the department to match the job as well. So that's part of the whole foreign key thing going on. But more importantly, joins are important. SQL joins. You can look up the ID of the department in the employee table, and then there's a department table, and the department ID has to match the record that's on the department table, and then it's just going to pull in the name from the department table into the employee record that's all over here. The purpose of doing that is so that if you decide to change all the department names, you do not have to go into each individual employee record and change the department name. For example, from engineering to material engineering. You can just change it from the department table and it will reflect on all the employee records. It's actually, you have a department ID and you have a row ID. I just did a join so that you don't see the IDs, you see the actual names. So that's called lookup table. So you can see there's a database going on. This is a MySQL database. Let's start looking at the code. I'll start showing you how I organize my code here. If you start loading npm start, it's going to open whatever script that's in the package.json, and that would be over here, node index.js. So it's starting the index.js file. That's the entry point. When you go in here, it's going to load some modules. For the purpose of subscriber and publisher pattern, when you're here and you're selecting each individual menu item, if you're adding, for example, employee, it needs to know when to show this other screen. And the package for that is called inquiry. Inquiry allows you to let the user enter options or enter their own input. To go from screen to screen, instead of having them under each other, I I have it so that when the user finishes answering the questions here, like John Doe, he's an accountant, his manager is um, Tamer. There's already a John Doe here, but let's just say there's another employee is John Doe. It will go from screen to screen, and whatever the user picks, that is event. I create a custom event that will that the app is listening to, and then the app will call the function whenever the event is triggered. Um, so what's going on here is when you look at index.js, first it generates the ASCII text. We don't have to really look into that. That's only one file. And then it's going to call from the different view folders the main menu. This is the main menu. And it's going to use the inker. And the inker have these options. And each time the user chooses an option, like for example, add department, it's going to emit or trigger an event. Now, the event name is anything you can type, but because I do not want to be error prone, I also create constants. We have a global variable here that I call constants. I'm using the same constants for the menu item and for the event. These are all the main menu, and then these are all like the secondary constants, because when you're for example adding a row, triggers add row event, and then when you're adding a specific job, this one makes sense, but this is a hairdresser. This is a very big company, does all kinds of jobs. You press enter, and if oh yeah, you got enter a salary, let's just say 30,000. I don't know how much to make. You press enter, then it goes back to the main menu because it triggers the event called main menu. For that to work, you need to start delegating these custom events to handlers of or callbacks. The custom events, I define it all under event emitter. In Node.js, Java, any other language, they have their own way to do this. Event emitter is part of the events package that is built into Node. What I do is, as soon as I call a specific event or trigger it or emit it, in jQuery it's called trigger, and in Node.js here it's called emit. When I trigger or emit this view all employees from the main menu, let me finish this, view all employees, it's going to call an event handler. So all the event handlers for every single event is under the subscribers object. That's the organization there. And the subscribers object I put into the subscribers folder. And here are all the event handlers. For example, add employee. I would delegated that to the add employee menu item, which would trigger this event. So you're asking, how can the menu trigger the event? Well, back at the main menu, when you have the inker, based on whatever the user chooses, you remember inker allows you to choose an option or enter an answer based on whatever menu item they choose. In the then part of the API, I can do a switch statement. And if I chose add employee, then I can emit add employee. And then remember, globally, I already am starting to listen to the add employee event, and then I'll call the add employee event handler. which is under the subscribers folder. So that is the publisher subscriber pattern. The idea is that if you have a whole bunch of tasks that you don't know when they're going to happen, they're asynchronous, then you want to be listening to them. You want to be subscribed to them. And the publishing in this case is whenever the user chooses a menu item. The next design pattern that I want to go over is the service and data access layers. The service layer has all the logic. It's called business logic. What the service layer is pretty much all the code that has to do with how your app works at front value to the user. That's called business logic. The app helps the business drive, and in this case, this is a HR tool. The employee conceptually wise does not need to know anything about the database. So all the wording here is show spreadsheet of employees. HR at department. You don't say select all departments. Conceptually, this service layer or this Node.js file has no awareness of the database. So you can port out the service layer or the service file with some modifications, of course, to another technology like a web app. The data access layer, DAL, I put in the DAL folder, is everything that has to do with reading the database. And it's good to separate into a data access layer too. Let's just say you have to change table names. You don't want to be going to code that has only to do with business logic. You want to go to code that all has to do with database logic. And of course, for each single type of database manipulation or reading, you have different files for it conceptually, just like you have different classes for it. For this app, I have a publisher subscriber pattern. The publisher or the emitting is a custom event, and the event handler is subscribed to the custom events. And for me, because there's so many options, I'm using constants. I use the same constants for the menu. It has a string, so that guarantees that they're unique. And I also have the same constant as a custom event. That's like right here. I'm still using constants. And for conventional purposes, the event handlers, I name it at least somewhat similar or the same as the constants. As you can see, there's a subscribers dot view all employees. So you know that is the event handler that's listening, that's subscribed. So the event handler is going to have to call the business logic, which would be a spreadsheet.js. And this, the business logic or the service layer, if it needs to access the database, is going to call these database files that specifically accesses the database. That's why we have a DAL for data access layer. We have a service for all the business logic. We have subscribers for all the event handlers. And assigning those event handlers to the custom events, I just put in a class that is make global. Uh, Here, so all make global. One way to organize your code so you can tackle the program from the database perspective, from the business logic perspective, and from having more complicated menu options, and the right code would trigger based on how the user behaves. This is Wayne. Thank you for listening. If you find this enlightening, like, comment, subscribe. If you'd like to work with me, you'd like to hire me, my LinkedIn is below. Thank you so much. Take care. Until next time.